Yes. Scott Wiener.
Hey, what? Let's see that pizza.
I'm about to make my first wood fire pizza.
Bring it, bring it.
About to burn the
Bring it
house
closer.
down.
I can't see it. Daniel, hello, sir. Oh, snap, that looks good.
So make sure you get some air underneath that before it's got
Okay.
something so it doesn't.
Is that when you blow it?
Just a little bit.
Okay.
All right.
We miss you. You should move to Oxford.
Okay, sounds great.
All right, guys. Good luck. So I'm Brian Hernandez here with PMQ and PizzaTV, and I'm here with the infamous Scott Wiener. Scott, how you doing today, brother?
I'm feeling quite infamous today.
Quite infamous. Not just famous, but infamous.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, man. Well, let's just jump right into it, buddy. You know, I met you. I think you were one of the first people I remember. Went to Atlantic City, where Leonardo Giordano won. It was at the Harrah's, and it was that boxing themed tournament, which was really great because they had the ring card girls and they played the Rocky theme every 5 minutes. What I remember was just sitting down and listening to you just riff for, it had to be hours on end, just about pizza. Keep the crowd going when there was a crowd. You know, people came and left. So I just want to get into it. I was just impressed that this guy knows more about pizza than anybody I've seen in the industry. And I don't know that he works in a pizzeria. So what is your earliest pizza memory, man?
Earliest pizza memory for me was definitely like I don't remember ever discovering pizza. It was always there. So for me, it was just this memory that I can't even put a date on, but it was a memory of sitting in the car, the pizza box on my lap, keeping it level, always driving, picking up my brother from whatever, I don't know, guitar lessons or something. The smell of that, the pizza and the cardboard, and the feel of it, it just was this warmth, like physically and spiritually.
So the cardboard played that was kind of a big impact in your earliest pizza memories, just the smell of the pizza boxes?
Absolutely. Pizza always came out of a box. We would go out for pizza sometimes, but more often we'd bring it in. So the pizza box was part of the whole package.
Now, did that lead to anything later in your life? Because I know I've heard you've got quite a collection of boxes. Is this kind of what led to that?
I do not think that experience with handling pizza in a box is what directly led to me collecting pizza boxes and having a world record for it, but maybe it's in the subconscious somewhere.
So you say you have a world record for, is this a Guinness World Record, I would assume, for pizza boxes?
Guinness World Record, absolutely. 2013, I had over 600 pizza boxes, and that was a world record. And I've kept collecting. Now I have over 1,300, and I don't think anybody else out there is collecting them at all.
All right. So you live in New York, man. 1,300 pizza boxes. Are they always folded, or are they like flat? I mean, where do you store that? I know real estate's pretty expensive up there.
Yeah, it's rough. And I live in an apartment. I don't have like a house. So I keep them always flattened unless, I have a system. So I get the boxes flattened. I build them to photograph and to measure them. Then they go in a separate pile. And then once they're ready to go officially, then they go into a third pile. So I'm sitting in my office right now. I see pile number 1, pile number 2, pile number 3.
Very efficient. As long as you understand it, that's all that matters. Yeah. So when we first got introduced, it had been about 6 years ago, came to New York for my first show here when I was just starting here at PMQ. Scott's Pizza Tours. How long has that been around?
I've been doing that one since the spring of 2008. So at this moment right now, it's 9.5 years old. Wow.
So, what led you to get involved into the pizza tour business?
It was totally weird. I used to go with my friends to pizzerias for fun. This is not uncommon, especially in the New York area. I meet tons of people now who say, "Oh, I've been doing pizza crawls for 20 years." And I'm like, "Yeah, okay, cool." Where you go around and you visit a bunch of pizzerias, and then you go home and you take a nap, I guess. But that all started to change on my birthday 10 years ago when I rented a school bus. I invited a bunch of friends, and I said, "Let's all just get on the school bus, drive around town, and pizza." And it was so much fun, I decided to keep doing it.
Wow. Okay. So, I guess the next question is really kind of why pizza tours? I mean, was it just because it was fun? I mean, was there never any ambition to go into the pizza business itself, or?
The pizza business had never and still does never truly interest me for myself. Like I don't want to own a pizzeria. I love making pizza, but on a small scale. It really became more about celebrating pizza. I thought to myself, can I make a living being a pizza fan? And that's what this is.
There's no better living. I mean, was the first kind of notion to actually do just a pizza tour because of your proximity in New York to so many great pizzerias? Or, did you always have that love of pizza like you said? Or was it both? Or were you abducted by aliens? Are you programmed this way, Scott?
Who told you?
I don't know. It's the guy who had a black hat, black coat. I can't tell you, but
you know him too. You've met Cedric.
Yeah.
So anyway, it was none of the above really. It was I just loved pizza. A tour never made. I never thought about tours. I love pizza. What should I do? Should I blog? Write a book? What can I do? Take pictures of what do you do? There's no Instagram. The blogging stuff was still pretty new at the time. We were a few years into food blogging, but I didn't have an internet connection at the time, so I couldn't do that. And I was like, well, what's a good medium with which to tell this story? So, tours it was a thing. It was like people in New York do tours all the time. I met all these people who do food tours. I started going to meetings of the Tour Guides Association, and I was like, okay. I met all these tour guides at this tour guide association meetings. And I was studying to take my test. In New York, you have to take a test and get a license to do tours. So before I dove into the deep end and did the test, I wanted to meet a bunch of people. So I met a bunch of people, talked to them about what tours even, how they work. And, that led to taking the test, failing it, then passing it, and then I started doing the company.
So is it just kind of a generalized test for being a tour guide? Or do they have hey, you're going to be a burger tour guide, you have to take this test, or pizza, or?
Well, at that time, there weren't really a lot of specific tours for specific subjects. You could do an architecture tour, I guess, but there was nothing like, there weren't a lot of chocolate tours or bagel tours. It wasn't really specific. So you just take a tour, you take a test, and that allows you to take people around the city. And that was it. Didn't matter what you did.
All right. Sounds good. Well, you've obviously been doing this for 10 years and, you've seen a lot of pizzerias, and I assume you go to a lot of them over and over again, but you see some new ones as they come up. So what are some mistakes made by some of the newer pizzerias that you noticed as a consumer that you could let these guys know, up and coming pizzeria operators know? It's like, I saw this as a consumer, it's a new place, or even an established place. What are some of the mistakes that you've seen that you would, no names, you don't have to mention any names. I know New York's
I totally different answers for mistakes of established pizzerias and mistakes for new ones. The bigger mistakes are made by the established pizzerias. They're the ones who think that I've been doing it for 20 years, I know what I'm doing, don't change anything. And then you see the new ones come along, the little whippersnappers, and they are better in a lot of ways. They're paying more attention. They're less concerned with only dealing with the bottom line, which is great because it means that a lot of the older places, the quality starts to drop because they're more, they've built up. Now they've got two ends you got to make them meet with the bottom line, and it's tougher. When you're the new place, more about passion, and a lot of the owners know that they're not going to make a dime for at least a few months, maybe even a year or two. So I find that the new places have it together better than the old ones. The old ones don't have good social media presence. They're doing little things like too much flour, inconsistent bake. And when I say too much flour, I mean too much bench flour.
Mhm.
So like the big,
yeah.
all over, I see so many pizzas that are just like caked with flour on the crust, and it tastes terrible. And they're like, well, that's the way we do it. That's pizza. How do you want us to do it? And it's like, you don't want to tell them what to do, but you want to be like, come on, wake up.
It's more of a thing of complacency among the older established places.
Exactly.
We've been here for so many years. We don't have to worry about what you think. They're going to come anyway.
Exactly.
The new guys have to cut their teeth. Is there any particular, just like one maybe thing just at the top of your head, any particular item from a new guy that you thought was just above board, that was just really cool as they came through? Just something unique.
Well, like, you mean like a menu item?
Menu item or anything that kind of, they're new, they wanted to draw people in. Menu item, gimmick, promotional material.
I mean, right now with photography being such a big draw with Instagram and photos on Facebook and all that, I see a lot of people like experimenting and showing their experiments and their mistakes on social media platforms. Gets people really interested and excited. And some of those mistakes have become big, maybe not money makers, but big attention getters.
Mm-hmm.
So a pizza with interesting topping combination or an interesting shape. I meet people all the time on my tours who I take them to a pizzeria and they say, oh, this is the place that's got that funny shaped pizza that I saw on Instagram. And that's cool and it works. It really does help.
What is maybe on the opposite end of that coin? What is maybe some good marketing ideas that you've seen from maybe some of the older guys or from some of the newer guys? Just something that sticks out, instead of the mistakes, but just something that left you thinking about it.
The older places, I find that they're a little bit more resistant to technology, which is okay. It could play in their favor because if you have a client base that's resistant to the technology, then you're fine. So places that do the pizza box with the corner of it that says save 10 of me and get a free pizza or something like that, it works. It's a loyalty program for the analog world. And you can't expect someone in their early 20s to save a bunch of little pizza box cardboard pieces. Maybe somebody in their early 70s is all up for it, and they're very excited to get that free pizza after they save 10 pieces of cardboard.
That makes me feel old. I'm not quite 40 yet, but I would totally save 10 of those. So, So you say like loyalty programs kind of help out as far as like just building a base, as far as for independence.
Absolutely, yeah, because it's all about loyalty programs. Because if people shop for food in a few different ways. They do for taste sometimes. You're lucky if your clientele does for taste, because I don't know, all you got to do is make a great pizza and they'll come. Unfortunately, they do it for value. So what's the lowest price I can pay for the most pizza I can get? And when you gun for that, you're sort of not shooting for the stars, you're shooting for the toes. So you could do that, and you could be in business for a bit, but then you can't expect for people to come to you for taste, And then you can do, sometimes people go for speed. Like, they always say you can get things cheap, hot, and good.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to get all three. You got to pick two of those and, gun for it that way.
Cool. All right. I want to let you know real quick. You've turned into a Smurf. It got really dark in that room. I mean, seriously, you're like purple, and
Yeah.
I can just hear is there a light you can turn on? If not, I'm fine going forward with this.
No, I just got this really crappy light. I use all of my, how about that? Is that a little better?
Oh, that's perfect, dude. That's perfect. If it's not going to...
This.
All right, man. So, you've given us a lot of good information so far. And we're going to get into a lot more here coming up. But, I just wanted to hear... what was your biggest success? What can you let people know to use as far as just pizza and business? I mean, you've established really good business out there from what I've heard. I mean, I'm always referring people out there, and I'm always seeing you either on the news or on Facebook and stuff like that. What are some just business tips for anybody coming up in this, trying to make their own thing, like independent pizzerias and stuff like that?
Well, my number one tip is definitely to allow yourself to get obsessed. So be obsessive about whatever it is that you're going for, whether it's the decor or the quality of the product or whatever it is that you're into. Get totally obsessed with it and understand it, because then you're open to more opportunity and more ideas. And just in what I do, which is kind of in the pizza business, but not exactly. I mean, I just allow myself to get really into it. And then the more I get into it, the more the press picks up on it. If you stay quiet about how into it you are, that's not a great idea either, because if I post a video on YouTube or a live video on Facebook or a photo on Instagram or a story on Instagram, then people see it and then they react to it and they share it, and you gain some infamy, in your words, or notoriety or whatever it might be. Yeah, and the more people know about you and talk about you, the more they're doing your promotion for you.
So that brings up another question. How do you promote your business? Do you do a lot of just print ads, any kind of TV, radio, or is it just social media, word of mouth?
It's all word of mouth. I haven't done a single ad since maybe 2009 or 10. I think I spent $600 once on a thing where you put little cards in the hotels.
Yeah.
Yeah, that didn't work because I went to all the hotels and none of them had it. I realized that I wasted that money. But after that, photo bomb. Sorry, it was right over your head.
Oh, they're walking.
Great.
I thought someone was coming. Yeah, they knock on me in my aquarium back here.
Yeah, I love it back here in the fish tank. But it's all word of mouth, because if people who love you tell their friends who they think would also love your product, then you're going to get nothing but good things walking in the door. The problem is if you kind of put it out to the world without any detail or refinement, you might be setting yourself up for, people who might not like your product. If I make Neapolitan pizza from a wood-fired oven and I tell my friend who wants crunchy pizza goes to my pizzeria, they're not going to be happy. You want people who totally understand your product to be the ambassador. So for my tours, I just try to, when people are on the tour and they're amazing, I just tell them, I'm like, you are awesome. I want you on this tour all the time. If you have friends who are like you, send them my way. And, I'll send you a t-shirt or whatever, like that kind of stuff.
All right. Well, this leads to another off the script question. It's 10 years now, man. So when your first tour, how many pizzerias did you stop at, and how many do you have now? And I guess it's like a 4-part question. How many do you hit on a stop, and do you rotate it? So how many did you start with?
So at first, on the tours in general, maybe there were a batch of 10 to 12 that were kind of in the stable of pizzerias that we might visit. Now there are 50 or 60.
Okay.
We do more neighborhoods, and it's a little bit of a wider scoop. And on any tour, if it's a bus tour, we'll do 4 pizzerias. If it's a walking tour, we're going to do 3.
Wow. So there's a giant, like you said, stable of pizzerias that you can just kind of keep sifting through. So if somebody came to your pizza tour every week, they could almost get a different experience for almost a year, probably.
Yeah, I mean, it'll loop every once in a while, and there are a lot of people who have been on my tours, and we've gone to the same places. But you can't just pick a random 4. You got to pick 4 that makes sense thematically and geographically. So whenever I pick those 4, it's got to make sense. But you're right. I get people who've been on tours. The other day, I had a 3-timer, a 5-timer, a 12-timer, and then someone who's been on the tour 29 times. So
wow.
Whenever they come out, I got to mix it up. And it gets really hard.
So do you come up with themes, or do you just like pick 3 out of a hat? How do you work that out for what the tour is? And actually, what's the schedule? Is it weekly?
Yeah, the bus tour is every Sunday, but the walking tours are every day.
So you do this almost 7 days a week, sometimes.
Either I have 6 other tour guides, so we as a company have tours 7 days a week. I think I'm probably doing 5 to 6 days a week myself, but we have a lot of places at the same time happening. I know which places work well together, so I try to make a theme happen. But really, the main idea is we have 4.5 hours to hit 4 pizzerias. And in New York, with the traffic the way it is, You really have to plan carefully. So I'm not going to go from Soho to the Bronx to Coney Island to Harlem and then back. Like I got to go Harlem, the Bronx, and then back.
No, yeah, it makes sense. And so, I mean, especially with the walking tours, they got to be within walking distance. So that's actually the great thing about New York too, is that a lot of them are within walking distance. So, what are your top three? Or I guess what is your best walking tour? What are the 3 stops that you do on that one?
I don't know if I have a best walking tour because we have different neighborhoods have different features, but the more popular walking tour is probably the one that we offer, that we've been doing the longest, which starts at Lombardi's. And that's fun because you get to see an old coal-fired oven. It's 118 years old.
Right, it's first pizzeria in the U.S., yeah.
First pizzeria in the U.S., yeah. So then after that, we don't always go to the same places after that, but hypothetically, after that, maybe we go to Ruby Rosa for like a thin crust, super cracker kind of thing. And then after that, maybe we go to Joe's. I mean, we change it up all the time. So honestly, at the moment we start the tour, I only know the first stop.
Okay.
We figure it out. Like if I have nothing but people from Louisiana who have never been to New York, I got to hit New York slices. If I get more New Yorkers or people who have been to the city a bunch and they've had all the classic slice shops, then we do something different. Switch it up.
That's cool. Well, we're going to get back to some more of these tour questions a little bit later, I'm assuming. I don't know. They'll come up. I was getting off on a whole tangent. None of these questions were written down. It's just talking with you when it comes up, man. I just want to know some more. But I'm going to get back to the script here real quick. We're getting back into, like, the pizza cooking and stuff like that. So you've been around it for a while. And I've seen, you've been learning at the hands of some of the greats, man. So what is, like, an easy question, what is one ingredient that you're never going to use?
Ooh. I honestly don't think there's a single ingredient I would never use.
No, not, I'm not a proponent of this, but not even pineapple?
I'm way into pineapple.
All right, huzzah. We'll give a high five on that one, the virtual high five. There we go.
Why not? Pineapple is delicious.
Right, okay. So you don't have, you're not biased against any ingredient. You'll find a way to make it work.
I mean, look, I don't love broccoli on pizza, but I mean, you give me a pizza with broccoli on it, if it's chopped up real fine and you've done something creative with it, of course I'll eat it.
All right, that's very proactive, progressive thinking on that. I love that, Scott. That's great. So, and on the other end of that coin what is one ingredient that you haven't used yet, but you definitely want to put onto a pizza? Because I know you do a lot of cooking in your spare time, and
I do, but I've never got my hands on a bunch of pepperdew.
It's I don't want to say it's becoming popular. I'm sure it's always been popular, but first, a year ago it was balsamic, now it's pepperdew. So
yeah. So
what would you do a pepperdew pizza with?
Good question. I mean, I've had them a few times, and they're sweet and they're rich, and I feel like I don't know if it's like a pepperdew post-oven prosciutto with maybe like a ricotta cheese or something like that, and like lemon zest on top.
Yeah, sweet with the savory and
sweet, salty, acid.
Yeah.
I just want to play with it.
Do it. All right. So what do you cook? Because you sent me a recipe, which I'm gonna be making here. I'm gonna try to recreate it as beautiful as you did. You're in an apartment in New York. What did you cook that pie on? What do you cook on?
I cooked that on a baking steel.
Really? So just in an apartment in New York in your oven?
Stuck a 1/4-inch thick piece of steel from baking steel right into my oven. Crank that sucker up to 550. Let it soak for an hour. And bake it right on the thing.
That's actually a really good tip for everybody out there. So,
came out great. I like that picture I sent you is just from my home oven.
Well, yeah, I thought that, but then I was thinking, I know you have access to a lot of these guys out there in New York. I didn't know if you made that in one of their kitchens.
Just here.
So, what inspires your recipes? I mean, how many recipes do you kind of have? Do you kind of floating around in your mind, or maybe even written down?
I don't really have any recipes. Like, I just think about, like, that one is the first recipe I've ever written down, I think, in my life for pizza. I just think about, well, what are some things that taste good together? Or really, like, what are some things that I've had in pizzerias? Because most of my experience is eating at pizzerias, not sitting, like, I'm not cooking food for people that often. So if I'm in a pizzeria, for instance, I went to a place where lemon zest whipped up in the ricotta. So in my recipe, there's lime zest in the ricotta. Totally inspired by that one I had. Hot soppressata on a white pizza. I've seen it on a bunch of places. I thought that would be cool. And then I don't remember where my recipe had mint pesto. I don't remember where I had that, if I had that, or if I just like I know I didn't invent it, but like I don't know where honestly, I was riding on my bike trying to figure out. I was supposed to go to this pizzeria and make a specialty pizza for their customers for one night only. And I was like, oh man, what's going to be my recipe? What am I going to make? I don't know. It was summertime. I thought, let's make something fresh, something that's got some heat to it. People like heat. Let's do something interesting and different. So that's what it was.
Well, I'll tell you this much: mint pesto has me very intrigued because I've never had that either. So
I mean, look, it's like pesto can be made from anything.
Like you said, you can make a pesto out of most anything, but you got to get your flavors down. So
yeah, and it took a while to kind of balance out how much, how to make this pesto that I was telling you about that goes onto the pie, the mint pesto. There's a lot of different things you can do. You can do it with pistachio. You can do it with almond.
Yeah.
You gotta narrow it down a little bit.
Have you ever worked in the pizza industry outside of what you do now with the pizza tours? Have you ever, bussed at a pizzeria, cooked, line, delivered, anything like that?
Yeah, I worked at a couple of pizzerias, and then I did, but short-term working, and most of it was while I was running the tours. I would, my friends who owned pizzerias would say, hey, if you want to get any more experience, come and work anytime you want. So I would go in and work. But I've never worked, I never had, the high school job at the pizzeria or the college job at the pizzeria. It's more been, just to get fun experience myself.
Well, I mean, so how does someone with your, I don't, not to be rude, but you're limited working in the actual industry, become so knowledgeable about the industry and history of pizza?
Well, the history of pizza was kind of the easier part because I just researched. I just paid attention and researched. And, there are books out there. There have been, books when I started, there weren't that many, but maybe 2 or 3 really good books about pizza. And I would read what they were writing. And then I would kind of dig up, well, where did they get that information? What else can I get from that source? Maybe I can find a picture or something that tells more of a story. And for my tours, I thought, well, I can't just talk about Lombardi's and take people there. I should show them old pictures. So when you try to track down the old pictures, they bring up more questions. Like, wait a second, why are they wearing this in the picture? Why does the pizza look like that? And you just start digging and digging and digging. And it gets deep. I still research all the time. If I'm knowledgeable about it, it's because I just keep on asking questions and researching.
Oh, that's great. So I know you told me, I was going to say, when was your first tour? But you said it's about 10 years ago. You said 2009, correct?
Yeah, it was April 27th, 2008.
So on that first tour, man, what went right and what went wrong? I mean, one thing that you could say, oh, that was awesome, but another thing where you had to fix for the next tour.
Well, it was a little crazy because we went into some of the pizzerias and then some of them we would stand outside. And standing outside is okay sometimes, not if it's raining though. And then we went to 5 pizzerias that day, and I realized very quickly that 5 was too many. Not just physically. I mean, it's not hard to eat 5 slices of pizza. When you spread it out over 4.5 hours, it's a lot. It was also mentally a lot. By the time you've gotten to the 3rd place and you're looking at a 3rd oven, I take you into the kitchen and I show you the whole background and, what their method is. And we go into the walk-in and we talk about how they organize things, like everything. And you just realize that it gets heavy for people after a while.
So that brings up another question is that, so that was a walking tour, correct?
That was a bus tour.
Oh, that was a bus tour for 5 people. What's kind of the percentage of people who are just people come to New York, want to eat some pizza, or actual pizza aficionados or pizzeria operators who are looking to actually learn something from going to these places? I mean, do you get a mix of both?
It used to be a mix, but now we've kind of gotten rid of the people who just want to eat pizza. I've tried to make it clear on my website Like if you just want to go to New York and eat pizza, you do not have to take the tour. Just look at my website. I'll give you a list of pizzerias. No offense, but I don't want you on the tour. Because then they're not going to have a great time. They're just going to be like, where's the pizza? I don't want, why all the talking? So now after years of doing it, it's more pizza nerds, a lot of professionals. I had someone yesterday from Kuwait who's opening up a pizzeria. And that was my third tour that had somebody from Kuwait opening a pizzeria. A lot of professionals come on the tour because it gives them a chance to see the way people do operations in New York, where you've got a closet. So this way, when you go back to Oxford, Mississippi, and you got more space, you're like, wow, we can better use our space. I can get another 10 seats in my restaurant by shrinking the kitchen a little bit. And we can step up. If they can do it in New York, they can do it in Oxford.
That's great. So, who was the first big name player you met in New York? I mean, I know there's so many, and there's more parts to this question, but who was the first big name player that you met there? Somebody established.
Well, I met John Brescio from Lombardi's. Was probably the first big one. Because, you know, he's the guy who owns the first pizzeria in America. And I went in there and talked to him for a bit and got some of the history from him, but then really got more resources than anything. Yeah. That was a big one, because then once I had that, it gave me better questions to approach the other famous places, Patsy's, John's, and all these spots.
Okay. So who are some of the other big players that you know and are friendly with now? I mean, you know, just past that.
It's pretty much everybody in New York. I mean, I know so many of the owners and the pizza makers, and you know, in New York, it's probably like this in Oxford too. Oxford's a big food town. Like you work in one kitchen, and you get tired of it, or they get tired of you, and then you pop up in the other kitchen. Yeah. And you go to 10 restaurants, and you see some of the same faces.
Right.
So I start to know everybody, and then they talk about, they're like, oh yeah, you know Scott from the pizza tour, and then I get to know the other people.
All right. So how did this maybe I've seen you out there. You working with my good friend John Arena. This man he's the best. He's taught me so much, and he's so giving with his knowledge. It's insane. I kind of put him up there as one of the best people in the pizza industry right now. But you're working with him, Jim Mignani, Giulio Adriani, coming up with this Caputo Americana Flour, right? Were you a part of that?
Right. Yep.
How did that happen? I'm sorry, no offense, Scott. You don't work in the pizza industry. How are you developing flour for pizzerias from
I'm still trying to figure that out. I mean, like you're talking about, John Arena is he's my Yoda. I mean, he's my mentor, with no doubt about it. When I first met him, right away I was like, I gotta listen to everything this guy says. Giulio Adriani, same thing. I get into conversations with him when he had the pizzerias in New York. We would get into these great conversations and debates, and we were on almost even footing with debate about it. He's a great pizza maker. I am not. But yeah, Tony G, the whole thing. Michele D'Amelio was there. It's a good question about how I got part of that crew. It might be a better question for the people from Caputo, but they called me up, and they know that I eat pizza everywhere and that I'm based in New York, and they wanted to make a flour product for New York style pizza, or for American pizzas that were modeled after the New York style. And they thought, well, we need someone who knows what it tastes like, who knows what it looks like. And I've known them for years. I've been to their mill a couple of times. I have, I just know those guys forever. So I think they figured, well, let's just call up Scott.
Okay. That brings another question. You've been to their mill, the Caputo mill?
Oh yeah, a bunch of times.
How'd that happen? Just going over there?
I mean, look, I do tons of research, and if I talk about something, I need to know as much as I can about it. So if I tell you on my tour about a buffalo farm, and I show you a picture, it means that I was on that farm and I took that picture. If I tell you about tomatoes, it means that I picked and ate those tomatoes. It's really important for me to do that. So if I talk about flour on a tour, especially something like Caputo, which is kind of unknown to a lot of people, like I got to go to the Caputo mill. So when I went to Naples, I've been to Naples a couple times. Whenever I go to Naples, I called up Roberto, and he said, oh, you should go and see the mill. So he hooked me up with Antimo and Mauro and the whole family. So then I become closer with them. You know, so it's like I was already familiar with it. So it's kind of fun going back to the mill. And, you know, believe me, I was starstruck just to be a part of that team. But at the same time, there were all people and places that I was familiar with. And, you know, I've spent a decent amount of time in Naples over the years. And, I know what the scene is and what the people are like. And I also know what they're going for because all I do is speak with pizza makers and pizza eaters. And over the past almost 10 years, I've met probably 60,000 pizza lovers on the pizza tour. I know what they like. I know what they're eating. I know what they want. So it was fun to be part of that group and get to represent all those people.
No, it's extremely impressive, and I'm highly jealous. In fact, I'm watching a lot of the stuff that you do, and I'm like, why aren't they sending me there? But that's okay, Scott. I'll just hate you from afar, and we'll be friendly.
I understand completely.
So how often do you actually come up with recipes? I know you kind of focus on the pizza tours. Is the pizza tours? Is that your main focus right now? Your business?
Yeah, I'm not a pizza maker at all. So recipes I don't sit around. When I have people come over, we're making standard pizzas. You know, nothing crazy because I'm more interested in the dough. For me, it's all about the crust. And every time I make pizza, I don't really care what's on top. It's more about, well, did the crust come out okay? Is it flexible enough? You know, what are the variables that I can change to make a better crust? After that, I can deal with funky toppings. But really, for me, I'm not a pizza maker. I'm a student. So if I'm playing with toppings, then it's because I want to educate myself. Like I was running late to have this chat with you because I was at a cheese store in Manhattan picking up a ball of fresh mozzarella, a ball of scamorza, and then I had to go to another grocery store to get a block of whole milk, low moisture mozzarella, and then a bag of shredded whole milk mozzarella because I want to do some melt comparisons.
Oh, that's very cool, man. That's great.
Yeah,
so I mean, you're in there for the science and figuring out the weights and means and all that stuff. How does your dough work? I like that you said that. You know, the milk comparisons and the cheese. That's when you come up with a recipe. It sounds like you focus. You're more concerned about how the dough performs.
Yes, absolutely. For a recipe, for me, it's like I'm happy. I can make 20 pizza margaritas in a night and be happy if my dough is coming out okay. You know, when friends come over, I got to play with ingredients more. But then it just becomes, hey, everybody bring one topping, and then I'll try to make things that make sense. Very simple.
Is there one topping that you will absolutely not use? You will kick that person out of your house and say, goodbye, don't text me on Facebook or anything for the next 2 months because you brought this to my house. You got one. I know you do, Scott.
I honestly don't think so. I mean, throw some at me. Throw some words at me. I'll say yes or no.
Anchovies.
Absolutely. I'll take those anchovies and I'll mash them down. I'll make it into a paste. I'll do like an anchovy paste. Then I'll put the tomato on top of that. And then I'll do like little dots of mozzarella and then cover it in Parmigiano Reggiano. Bake that. Hit it with the oil when it comes out. And it's like those anchovies are just they're like ghosts in the distance haunting you.
Brussels sprouts.
Oh, definitely. I'll roast them up a little bit first, but just a little bit because they're going to roast more when they're on the pie. After they're like gently roasted for like 5-10 minutes, I'll break them apart, throw them on there. I guess the classic would be with pancetta on a white pizza and some garlic too. So I'll see if somebody brought over a fatty meat. I'm going to like a raw sausage. I'll put those leaves on there. I'll break up the fatty sausage on top. So when it cooks down, all the fat oozes onto the Brussels sprouts and helps protect them from burning.
Caviar.
I have to do it after the bake, and I would probably do it on a white pie. It's pretty salty. I wouldn't want it to conflict with the acid of the tomato. It's weird doing all these white pies, but like I guess we got to. Yeah, and I would slice the pie first, and I'd put like a little tiny pile on each slice. Well, that seems kind of obvious. But whatever. I'll do it anyway. I'm not a professional pizza maker. I got nothing to prove.
All right. I'm going to do one more. Pineapple.
Pineapple, I would probably cut the pineapple in half, probably roast that first, like low temperature for a long period of time. I'd want to get it like real loose, so then I could take some forks and like pull it apart. And then when I make my pie, yeah, I don't want to put slices of disgusting, but I want to like razzle dazzle it all over the pie. You know what I mean? And then put some like a fatty pork and something hot, some chilies, something hot. I like hot with that pineapple. You get the juicy, you get the hot. Jalapeno is a little obvious, so I go with something a little bit more interesting. Or when it comes out of the oven, hit it with the hot honey, because then I get more sweet with the pineapple. The honey will be good. Heat from the chilies, and hell yeah, that's what we're doing. Because I feel like that's what the whole thing is about. It's like,
Right.
I don't sit here and make a plan, but like, you know, like the recipe I gave you was more of an idea, and then I invited friends over, and then we workshopped it all night. I made 20 doughs, and then every pizza that came out, we made an adjustment. Somebody said, not salty enough. We added a pinch of salt. Somebody said, too much lime juice. Lime juice. So that recipe was after one night of testing.
That's awesome, man. I do appreciate you. I will credit you with the Scott's flash round. I think is what it's gonna be right there, because that was awesome.
You can call it Scott's lightning round, and you can just do a video of me looking right in the camera, going like this, and I'll be like, cabbage, alligator.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's what I'm talking about. I like that.
Jello.
Vodka.
Oh, vodka.
Vodka and spinach.
I guess a vodka sauce is pretty easy. You know? Or, here's an idea. You put, like, the vodka in a little spritzer, and then, like, you hit the pie with a little spritz of that right before it goes to the table, and people just get that whiff. Slightly intoxicating. Or, if you had too much of it in college, it's slightly nauseating.
I like that Scott's lightning round. We're going to make that yours. So
you have to have an awesome graphic that's got, like, lightning bolts coming out of my eyes or something. I used to have, in college, I had lightning bolt sideburns.
Did you really? What's your personal favorite stop on your pizza tour right now? You said you have about 50 to 60 right now, right?
Yeah. I don't know if I have a single favorite stop.
If you had to do a walking tour that they could all be walking, you know, if you only had to pick 3 places.
Describe me the group.
The group, you got a Midwest person, Indiana, Ohio area. You got somebody from Southern California. And then you got maybe somebody from, Atlantic City. Let's just say those 3 people.
Okay.
I'm throwing it all out there.
So you're describing me these people. I'm going to start at a place called Brunetti Pizza in the West Village. California person's going to be psyched about that. It's a light pizza. It's a Neapolitan pizza. Interesting topping combinations, even though on the tour we almost exclusively do pizza margarita or cheese pizza. But they'll like that. But then the Midwesterner is going to be like, I did enjoy that, but like it was a little light. And I'll be like, don't worry, because we're going to John's Pizzeria next. Been around since 1929. It's hearty. The cheese is first. You're going to get a real good bite and a real good chew out of it. You're just going to have a great night. And they're going to be psyched about that. Atlantic City is also going to be in that too, so that's going to be cool. And then after that, I might go to Arturo's, which is a coal oven pizzeria on Houston and Thompson Street. It reminds me of Tony's Baltimore Bar and Grill in Atlantic City, although it's not quite as greasy. And coal-fired pizza would be really delicious. I think that'll match up well. Only issue is John's and Arturo's, both coal-fired. I don't like to duplicate oven types. Wood-fired at Brunetti. So maybe I'd swap out either John's or Arturo's and maybe put Joe's in there, because that's a straight-up New York slice joint. Big old slice hanging off the edges of the paper plate. I think that might be the ultimate.
I mean, is there one that if you got a whole pizza, you would, eat the whole thing yourself?
Wow.
What's that recipe and where's it from?
I could eat a whole pizza margarita from Keste every day of my life. It's so light. It's so good. But it's tough to pick out a recipe because, we eat mostly cheese pizzas on the tour.
Mm-hmm.
So a good recipe is just like who did it right, who does it with some balance.
So is there a specific reasoning behind just having the margarita, which is, I guess, basically a cheese pizza on your tour?
Yeah, I mean, we always test every pizzeria with the most basic pizza on the menu. Because if you don't pay attention to the basics, and you're just covering up a bad crust or a bad cheese with great toppings. And I don't feel like that's the measure of a pizza. Outside of New York, you may judge a pizza on, oh, that was a great pizza. It had 25 toppings that were delicious. You don't care about the crust. In New York, it's all about cheese, sauce, and crust. The holy trinity. You don't have those things in place, you don't have a good foundation. So even though I get people on the tour who are like, hey, where's the pepperoni? I'm like, no. It's all about the basics. Because also, you know, if I got 32 people on a tour and I got one person who's vegetarian, I want them to have the same experience everybody else had. So, you know, unless you're lactose intolerant or allergic to tomatoes or gluten-free or celiac or whatever, you're going to have a fine time.
Well, when somebody says, take us to the best places, I mean, what would you do if you had 3 stops? I mean, I think you already kind of answered that, but.
If it's over the phone, I say, no problem. I got you covered. And if it's in person, I say, you tell me your top 3 places you've ever had in your life. What are the best 3 pizzas you've ever eaten? Describe them to me. And then I'll fill in the blanks.
Man, that's awesome. It's nice to know there's a one-stop shop for trying to find your perfect pizza in New York.
I'll tell you, it's like being a pizza matchmaker.
That's perfect. We're gonna get you that badge too, for sure. So, who is one living person in the industry that you haven't worked with yet or met, but you really want to? I know you rub elbows with a lot of the big brass, but is there one guy out there that you haven't met yet? Maybe your friends on Facebook, but
I've never met and spent time with Chris Bianco. That's the man. I feel like I've met other people, like some of the big dogs I've met, or at least I've been near them and didn't really want to spend more time with them, or, you know, or people who I already know. But Chris Bianco is one of these guys who I really would love to absorb just some of his mojo, you know, because he really has a focus on what he's doing, and he thinks about it in a way that people have forgotten how to think about things. We are always obsessed with, well, what's the best this and what's the best, and he's really like, no, I'm going to use these simple things and just use them right. I'd love to absorb that.
This is a trickier question. Who's the one historical person in the pizza industry that you maybe wish you would have met or worked with?
I would, without a doubt, I would want to meet Antonio Pirro, who opened Totonno's Pizzeria on Coney Island in 1924. And his family still runs it to this day. Longest continuously operating pizza location in America. One of the first pizza makers in America. He was working at Lombardi's. I would love to meet him and talk to him, and, you know, just about what was going on at the time, because at the time pizza wasn't a thing. You know, it was like a scrap, and I'd wonder how important it was to him, what his background was in it. You know, it'd be fascinating.
Well, Scott, man, I can't thank you enough for this great interview. You know, I've met you a few times, and I'm always amazed at how much you know. It's insane. You are the biggest pizza nerd out there. Can I call you that?
Call me whatever you want.
All right, well, I'll just call you that.
That's fine. Nah, thanks for dealing with me during the sunset.
All right, Scott, I appreciate your time, brother.
Take it easy, Brian.
You too, man. Later.
I love everybody.
All right, thank you.
All right, bye-bye.
Later.